Everybody, welcome to one more round. Today I'm going to do a solo episode. Today's kind of a special day for me. It's Halloween, October 31st, and for a lot of people it's Halloween, a lot of fun, with the kids and dress up and all that stuff. But for me, 2 years ago today, it's 2025 right now, but 2023, I was negotiating with doctors to get released from the hospital so that I could be with my kids on Halloween, right? It's a fun family day, and I had talked to pretty much every doctor I could, and finally Dr. Amabil, who's one of the major heart surgeons there, he came in and he pulled my drains, which I had in me, and he made a couple calls and he got me out on Halloween. The reason I tell this story is because I had been in the hospital for 61 days prior to this, and then I was out for 5 days and then back in until Halloween. And when you're going through health challenges like I had gone through, you're always, and for me, I'm thinking about the future. What does my future look like? What am I going to do? And you're planning and you're like, I'm going to do something good with my life. I'm going to do something big. And you're just itching to get started. Well, a lot of that's planning, right? And every year around this time, when I owned my other company for 15 years, November, December would be my planning for the next year, right? So right now we're in 2025, so planning for 2026. So going from what that was 2 years ago to today, a special day, I wanted to give you some clarity on a plan for your financial future. 5 things that hopefully are going to help you get prepared not only to end the year strong, to get everything taken care of, but also to go into 2026 with momentum. My belief is that 2026 is going to be a big year for all kinds of different reasons, right? I think fundamentally business is going to do well in America. That's my belief. I think the future does look bright. I think that if you are in the right positions, the right situations, your money is going to grow. And there's going to be a lot of different ways to do that. You want to talk to experts. You want to figure out how that path looks for yourself. But I believe 2026, if you prepare correctly, is going to be one of the biggest years for you if you have that right path for yourself, right? So we're going to get into a couple things. So the first thing I always like to do, and I did when I owned my company and in my personal finances, is I like to review and reflect where I'm at in the year, and specifically to spending. So I used to go through and I would look at, when I owned Aftershock, what money am I spending on advertising? What money am I spending on wages? What money are I spending on cost of goods? For me, cost of goods were digital items like Google AdWords spend and these types of things. What was my hard costs? What was my net profit after all of these costs? What was my tax liability going to be? Where could I cut costs? Where could I cut subscriptions? In my personal life, Jessica and I, we sit down, and we probably do it once a quarter on a big level like this, but we're always talking weekly about our finances, what's coming up, what bills we have, what's going on with the kids, things that we have to make sure that we have extra money set aside for, those types of things. But once a quarter, we look through the different subscriptions and things we're paying that sometimes it's just easy to sign up for a $9.99 service for an app on your phone, or add on to a YouTube subscription that you have YouTube TV, but you add on the NFL package, or you are trying to get healthy and you add this new health app, or you have food delivered to your house through one of the food deliveries. And these little tiny costs you don't think too much about, $10 turns into another $40 over here, and then you add another subscriptions to $75. Hey, Stitch Fix, I want new clothes coming in all the time. Now you add that in, that's $240 a month or more depending on what you get in. These subscriptions add up. And I promise you that if you go through your finances, go through your bank account, go through the things that are paid on a monthly basis, and look at with a fine-tuned comb and ask yourself, am I using this consistently? Do I still need to be paying for this? There's hidden money that you can absolutely get rid of. There's some great subscription platforms too that will look at your bank account and give you recommendations on that. You can just Google it online. There's a lot of different things, but they will enroll you. They will actually get you money back, and they take a small fee for that. You can do the work yourself. I don't recommend you have to use a company like that, but if you're busy and you want to have someone do that work for you and take that expense out, it's a big thing. So you got to look at your business or your family life and your personal life like a business, right? You Inc. Norris Inc. is how Jessica and I look at our finances. How do we make sure that we're running efficiently, that we are still able to have fun with the kids, we're able to travel, we're able to fund their, two of them are in volleybal, one of them's in flag football. We're able to, Zachary's going on a trip to DC next year, and we've been budgeting for that because it costs about $2,500 all in. There's these things that you want to be able to provide and to do, but sometimes that means that you can't spend as much on other things. And we have cut back on other things. We're probably going to take one less trip next year because our goal is still to save and to maximize retirement accounts, to put money in the market so that it can grow, because 2026 again is going to be huge. So there's not this tree that has all of this money. You have to choose and itemize what you're going to do with it, and you got to set your goals appropriately. So with that, set up your goals of what you want to accomplish for the next 2 months. We have Christmas and holidays coming up. Most of you probably celebrate to some degree, whether or not you give presents. It's going to cost money if that's what you do. You have holiday parties coming up. You have all of these different expenses that come around the holidays. Start planning for that, because the last thing you want to do is to put all of those expenses on a credit card and have that rack up at 28% or 3% on a monthly basis. Can you imagine that? Put $2,000 on a credit card. That's $60 of interest every single month if you're not paying that down, right? That's just going to nothing. Well, how can you flip that to where you're paying cash for it and not have that $60 coming out, and what would have been going to the credit card company in interest? Now you can take money and you can put it in savings, you can put it in a retirement account, you can put it in the market. Maybe you're looking to buy another real estate asset. All kinds of different things you can do with that $60, but be mindful of that. So, and then because the holidays are coming up, I have to say this, it's an emotional time, right? Everybody wants to have a great time with family, friends. Sometimes people want to avoid family and friends. You want to celebrate. We have a great Arrive holiday party that we're going to do. Really looking forward to that. Got a bunch of organizations. I'm on the board for the National Hispanic Instruction Alliance. I have some other parties we're going to go to. It's going to be a really, really time to enjoy and to be festive. But you have to be mindful about, again, not getting too emotional into the holiday season and not focusing on your goals. Because as I was talking to our advisors, and actually, Ariel did a great talk with our advisors earlier this week, you have to remember with the holidays, they're holidays. They're not holiday months, they're holidays. They're a set period of time where you sit back, you relax and all that stuff, but you know what? You still work, you still do all the things you need to, so again, you can go into 2026 with momentum. That's in your personal career and your personal finances, right? That's both. So the next thing is start looking at retirement and tax moves before December 31st. Maybe you're investing in a 401k, or you have an IRA or a Roth IRA, a SEP IRA. You have these different retirement accounts. Well, every year you can put a certain amount of money into those accounts that the government allows, and some of them are post-tax, meaning that you're not taxed on that money now. You'll be taxed when that money comes out. Those are your 401ks, your 403bs, your IRAs, your SEP IRAs. And then you have those are pre-tax. All those are pre-tax. Then you have your post-tax. Your post-tax is going to be your Roth IRA. There's also what's called Roth conversions. Let's say, for example, this year you made $80,000, and last year you made $130,000. So you had a down year for whatever reason. Could be in sales, could be in whatever. But your tax is going to be lower. So you can actually convert some of your money from a regular IRA into a Roth IRA, or you can take money that's already in an IRA and convert it to Roth, pay that tax while your tax level is lower, and now you don't pay that tax in the future. These are strategies. I'm not giving you any specific advice because I don't know your specific situation, but these are strategies you should be looking at. How can you maximize your retirement accounts and making sure that you're also setting aside money for a rainy day? All right, so also look at tax losses. Maybe you've got a bunch of money in the market and it's absolutely crushed it for you. There's a lot of people doing really well in the market right now. You want to talk to your CPA, you want to talk to your financial advisor, you want to say, hey, is there anything that I can do right now to limit the taxes I'm going to pay on this? Do I just keep the money in the market? Do I not sell it? And do I sell it? If so, do I sell things that have lost money to offset capital gains? These are conversations you have with the professional to make sure that they're minimizing your taxes as much as possible while maximizing your gains. It's always a balance. That's what these professionals are there for. Double check charitable contributions or donor advised fund gifts. So this is very important. Again, we're coming up on a very, very big giving season. In fact, I remember my pastor talking about years ago, he would say the biggest season of giving is always coming into December, November, December. People are just in that mood. That's why you see the good, I think it's the Salvation Army ringing the bell, right? The holiday season. They know people are in generosity mode. Keep track of what you're giving, because that also can be something that can help offset some taxes, or sometimes even can be a tax credit depending on how it's allocated. These are specific questions you want to talk to your CPA, your financial advisor about to make sure that you're doing right. But being generous and giving is awesome. It's one of the greatest traits you can have. Also remember that sometimes our tax code benefits you for doing that, right? So the next one. So let's protect your income and family legacy, right? So this is protecting the downside. You've probably heard me say this a dozen times. You hope for the best, you prepare for the worst, don't get your feelings hurt. That is how a good way to live life. My mentor, Eric, he taught me that a long time ago, and it's always stuck. Well, what does that mean? Prepare for the worst. There's things that you need to do, like estate planning, to make sure your family's protected, to make sure you have powers of attorney in place. If you can't make decisions for yourself, who's going to make those decisions on your behalf? What does your health care look like? What do you want it to look like if you can't make those decisions? Advanced health directives help with that. A living will and testament. Who do you want beneficiaries to be? How do you want them distributed? Do you want a funeral? Do you want to be cremated? These things need to be documented. And then a revocable trust. I want my assets funded in a trust so that probate never comes into play, because it's an entity that lives on that the trustee then can pass to the beneficiaries that you've designated, right? That's one part of protecting the downside. Life insurance. Life insurance is one of the most important staples of a financial plan you can possibly have. And this isn't because I sell life insurance. Yes, I do sell life insurance. But every CFP, every CHFC, every financial advisor with any designation, I promise you, if they are doing their job, they're sitting down with you, they're saying, hey, what do you have in place to protect the downside? And I promise you, they are recommending life insurance. It could be term, it could be permanent, it depends on your situation, but it is such a staple. And making sure that the life insurance you have is not only going to replace income and is going to pay off debt for your family and take care of that for both husband and wife, by the way. Never forget, even if both spouses work, but there's a huge disparity in how much income one makes over the other is usually taking care of a lot of things that the breadwinner is not. This could be husband or wife, right? They're taking care of the household. They're taking care of managing people coming in to take care of the household. The pool person, the landscaper, the painter, the housekeeper, all of these types of things. And maybe you don't have any of that stuff. I'm just throwing out a scenario. But that person is controlling and managing all that stuff while the breadwinner is making the most money. Well, there needs to be income replacement for whatever they're making, plus the things that they're doing as well. It needs to be part of your structure. Now, the second thing with life insurance, make sure it has living benefits, full living benefits. I've told you my story. I was 27 years old. I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together at the time. And if I did, I probably borrowed them from you if I knew you at the time. We were broke. I was starting a company, working my butt off. But I had a gentleman come to my house and he presented, it was New York Life, and he sat down with Jessica and I. We just had our first son, Joshua, and he says, let me share with you about life insurance. He asked a whole bunch of different questions. He gave us an option for a policy. We bought a policy for her and myself for 20 years. And I was 27 at the time, so it was only going to last till I was 47. It's all we could afford. However, because I got that policy in place at 35 when my company was doing much better, I got additional life insurance, better policies. Jessica, we did the same. We had policies for all the kids that we were growing cash value in. And then, guess what? 5 years after that, I end up in the hospital. I end up in a very dire position. You've heard me say, coded out twice, had to shock me back into life, had a heart transplant. But because I had living benefits on that policy, I was able to take part of that while I was alive. And I didn't even know it at the time. Nobody told me about this. I'm just very fortunate to where I was getting into this industry, starting to understand it. And I was like, well, let me look into that. And I did talk to the insurance companies, and I worked out, and they gave me up to $250,000 of my policy, and I'm still insured for $1 million. Living benefits are extremely important. Life insurance is important. So I know I'm beating a dead horse here, just bam, bam, but trust me, you'll never be disappointed on having more life insurance. I promise you that whether you ever use a term policy or you have a permanent policy that you're putting cash value in, you're never going to be disappointed that you have that safety net and your family is protected, okay? The next thing, invest smart for 2026. So this is so important. We don't just hope, we plan. We put together a strategic plan for what you want to accomplish. Well, how do we start doing that now in November and December? Well, again, number one, we're going to look at what we're spending. We're going to look at our budget. We're going to look at subscriptions that might not make sense for us. We're going to get rid of anything we can off of this top line up here so that it can drop down to the bottom line. Well, what can we do with the rest of it? Okay, maybe we invest it, or maybe that's going towards Christmas presents, or if you have a staff, presents for your staff, however you do that, holiday party costs, these types of things. But that extra money is, okay, now we're planning for 2026. That's something you can do now. It's when you're watching this, it's sometime in November. Today, obviously, is Halloween. I talked about that. But sit down. Okay, now we have extra money that we can start working with. Now that you have that, you have a game plan of what you're earning, what you're spending, and what's left over. So yes, I can start putting money in retirement accounts because I can do that. Towards the end of the year, you can actually do it in most cases up until filing taxes in 2026. But you got to have a plan for what you're going to put in there. But reassess your portfolio. Is my portfolio too aggressive? Right now is an aggressive time in the market for a lot of people. If you're in tech stocks, you think you're a genius. The reality is you're not. You're just really, really in a good time right now. But let's just say the top 7, they say the Magnificent 7, this is the Apples, Microsoft, Nvidia, so on and so forth, were to have a huge dip. Well, they're propping up the S&P 500 right now. And one of the biggest investments most people do are utilizing index funds like the S&P 500. And if they took a big dip, could you afford a 20% hit on your portfolio? Maybe you can. And maybe you're in a position where, man, I got a bunch of cash and I can't wait till it drops 20%. I'm going to buy more. Good strategy if that's you. Again, personalized strategy is important. But if that's not you and you're like, man, a 20% hit would be catastrophic, then you need to have some asset allocation conversations with your CPA, with your wealth management person, your financial planner, to make sure that it's in line with what your goals are and with the amount of money you're making, right? So align with next year's economic outlook. Listen, one of the things that Patrick Bet-David talks about, he talks about signal versus noise. There's all kinds of noise. I can pick up my phone right now and I can open up Facebook, I can open up X, I can open up TikTok, and I can scroll and type in finances, and I can hear a position on the same thing from 9 different angles debating each other, right? You name it. What stocks to buy, crypto, insurance, all of these types of things. There's a lot of noise out there, but you have to be able to see the signal through the noise. Well, what is the signal? The signal is, when is it time for me to take action, right? Of all the noise that's out there, all the buzz, all the headlines, and all that stuff, what am I looking for to take action? When you have strategic people in your life and you're like, well, your signal you're looking for is we have a deal with China completely. Well, that is a signal. That's not noise anymore. Well, if that happens, well, what do I do? How would I benefit from that by investing in the market? What companies would benefit from that? These are questions that you have, but that's a signal. That's like an actual thing that happens. It's not just all the noise, all the buzz, the 8,000 interviews that happen up to it, and the negotiations and the tweets, and no matter what political party you resonate with, it doesn't really matter. That's all noise, but the signal is what you're looking for. Many, many examples of the signal, but the signal through the noise is important when it comes to investing. It's also why it's important to have strategic people around you, because guess what? They're not emotional about it. Now, they're human beings. Every human being has emotions, otherwise they're a complete sociopath, right? But they are not as emotionally tied to a decision, and some people are just built that way, and you want to be unemotionally tied to your investments. You want to be able to invest in good things, get the gains where you can. If it's not working out, you need to understand that you have to cut bait without getting emotional about it so that you can live to invest another day. Very important. Okay, so setting the stage for 2026. So here's some goals, habits, and systems. Number one, set clear financial goals for 2026. Savings percentage. How much do you want to save? Well, let's just say that you're making $100,000 a year and you have 2 kids, and you know that your expenses every month, $7,500 a month, after taxes and all that stuff. So you got $2,500 you can do stuff with. Now, vacations might be a part of that, education, spending, savings, and a retirement account. You have to figure out what you're going to allocate. Are you going to make more money? Are you going to start a side business or something that's going to generate more cash on top of that if you're at a job and you know that you're only going to have that $100,000? Or can you budget more in to start achieving some of these goals? So set clear savings goals. Debt-free milestones. This is a big one. Credit card debt is at an all-time high, and it's something that everybody should try their best to get completely out of. And if you are conservative and responsible with your finances, only use credit cards if you're going to pay them off on a monthly basis. That is extremely important because it's super easy. In fact, statistics show that if you have cash or you have a card, you're going to spend more on the card because you don't feel like you're going to have to pay it back. It's emotional as statistics. There's lots of studies on it, but if you had your cold hard cash, if you were out somewhere, I have cash in here. If you were to take a $20 bill out and I go to the gas station and I'm looking to buy something and I see a deal, maybe it's buy 2, get 1 free, First Form energy drink. Shout out to First Form, they do that at Quick Trip. I'm going to look for a deal because it's cash. I know that I'm going to be limited to what is left over in this. However, if I then take out a card, I won't show you the card, I don't think you can see it too much on here, but if I take out a card and I spend it, I might not be looking for the same deal because no big deal. I'll pay it off, I'll pay it off, I'll pay it off. That's the worst phrase from human consumerism that you can possibly have in your brain. Oh, I'll pay it off. Oh, I'll pay it off. Because guess what happens? The air conditioning needs replaced, the roof gets a leak, the car gets a flat. Life happens, and now that money is just sitting over there and just earning interest. Like, oh, I'll pay it off. I'll do it in 3 payments instead of just 1. It's very important to be fiscally responsible if you're going to use credit cards. But if you have credit card debt and you've got savings, highly consider you talking to your advisor and making a decision if you're going to take some of that savings to pay off credit card debt. Because in most cases, I'm going to tell you, when I'm sitting across from somebody, in most cases, it makes a lot of sense. Because you still have the credit card if you need it for an emergency. But if you got to pay that off, well, now you're not paying interest on it. And now you're in the net positive instead of the net negative with that money because you had cash to pay that off, right? So really getting out of credit funded. This is a big one. Listen, my sons are 15 and 13. My daughter's 8. You know, I know we're going to be a tight family throughout their entire lives, but eventually they're going to get married. They're going to have kids. I'm going to have grandkids. They may stay close. They may move away. You know, obviously we'll be tight. We'll see each other. But there's a finite amount of time where you get to spend as much time with your kids. And my wife and I, we talk about that a lot. So we want to make sure that we do set aside times to take trips. And I'm not saying that they have to cost a lot of money. In fact, many times the ones we take, road trips. We took a road trip across the country to Myrtle Beach. This is one of the funnest trips ever. And it did cost some money, but it didn't cost nearly as much as flying out there and doing a lot of the other things that we could have done. And we had points, and most of our hotel was paid for. We stayed with family on, you know, one of the stays and then hotels on the way back. But we got to see the entire country, on the southern part, I should say. And it was so much fun. And one of our favorite things is when we were driving along, we'd get hungry. We'd look up on the app and see what would have the best review. And I remember we were driving into Mississippi, and sure enough, this little barbecue place showed up, and we're like, great, let's go there. Roll in, takes us on this road, turn left, takes us on a dirt road. We see nothing but trees, and then there's just this little corner store. We sit down, we go in there. It's kind of weird. It's like literally a corner store, little grocery store, but they sold barbecue there, and they had ribs. To this day, some of the best ribs I've ever had in my life. That's an experience we talk about to this day, and we did all kinds of that stuff on the trip. So making memories is important, but you need to budget for it. Sometimes it's easy to budget for that stuff on a monthly basis. Could be a couple $100. Maybe you like to do things on spring break. Maybe you like to do things on summer. Maybe your family likes to travel for the holidays. These are all things that you have to start planning out and making sure that you know what you're trying to accomplish. Because if I were to, you guys ever play the game Pin the Tail on the Donkey, right? It's kind of a funny analogy, but we all remember as a kid, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, pin the tail on the donkey. They put a blindfold, they spin you around, and you know, you take the little tail and you go try to pin it where you think the donkey is. And many times you're putting it on the wrong wall because you're so discombobulated, right? But what if I told you that you're blindfolded, but you had someone guiding you and said, okay, step forward, step forward, step forward, put your hand up a little bit to the right, a little bit over to the left. Okay, now push in. They can see what you can't. That's what having a game plan with an advisor is all about. They can see things that are coming that you can't necessarily see, and you're kind of in the dark in this case, but now you have an earful of good information coming to you so where you can make the right decisions and you can kind of see through the dark and to hit those targets. I know it's a dumb analogy, I get it, but hopefully it resonates. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So the other thing is choose a word or a theme for the year. So a couple of years ago, when I was getting out of the hospital, I had a phrase come to me, and it was cleaning the house. And what that meant is all the financial things, you know, of being in the hospital for months and selling a company and leaving a company after being the COO and starting in a new industry and a new partnership, learning all this stuff. We're going to clean the house this year. We're going to grow our companies. We're going to make sure our expenses are low. We're going to pay off any debt that we had. We're going to clean the house. That was the phrase. 2024 started to come to an end. 2025 was coming up. And I had this phrase come to me. It's building allies. And building allies to me meant that I'm going to strengthen relationships and I'm going to build relationships with strategic people that I can benefit and that I can benefit from their relationship, whether it be through knowledge or through having the ability to refer them to other people that I'm working with and helping. And this is through a lot of different things. This is maybe through my golf league and building relationships there. This is through my company and my clients and getting to know them better and understanding how I can help them better, what they do for a living. So if I can send business their way, I do so. People that have been with me, you know, and by my side forever, building stronger relationships there and strategically. So building allies was huge. And it's been a pretty good year. And I got 2 more months of working hard towards that. Yesterday, the next one came up. You're the first one to hear this. My wife hasn't even heard this yet. She will, though, before you see this, because this won't launch until Tuesday. But abundance. Abundance. That is my word for 2026. Why? Well, for me, we've done a lot of work cleaning the house. We are building great allies. I've spent a lot of time finishing up my CHFC. My wife's company is growing like crazy. She's doing great. We've done a lot to put a infrastructure on that. And this next year, we want, this isn't just a financial thing, but we want abundance. We don't want to live in lack. We want to give big too. I want to give big of my time. I want to give big of my resources. I want to be able to, of course, give money and those types of things. But I want to be able to benefit people through things that we've learned and things that we've done. And hopefully this podcast is that to you. And in 2026, we're going to have some pretty good changes to the podcast that are going to take it to the next level. So look out for that. It's going to be great. But pick a word for yourself, for your family. What is a word for 2026 or a phrase that comes to you, right? Very important. Again, all these things are just to keep you on track to your target. Have a goal, know what you want, why you want it. Now, how do I keep on track for it to hit that target? So, with that, I would say the big thing is pick great people to work with. When it comes to the financial world, it's important to have good people that can guide you. Like I said, that person that can talk to you while you feel like you're blindfolded to tell you to take a step up, raise your hand, to pin that tail in the right place. And if you don't have anybody like that, obviously we would love to help you at Arrive, right? That's what we do here. We love to help people financially get themselves in a position to where retirement becomes a reality, not just a wish, and that there's a game plan in place for it. But there's a lot of great advisors out there. And if you're not local here and you don't know me, you don't know anybody at Arrive, no problem. But find somebody good that you can talk with. Find a good CPA. Find a good accountant that can make sure that you're not paying Uncle Sam any more than you have to, and that he's finding ways that he can make you even pay less. And if you're a business owner, that really can come into play because of some of the things that were just passed in the most recent bill. Certainly with buildings and vehicles and these types of things of taking the full depreciation, very important. I think it's section 179. But anyway, so I hope this was helpful. I hope you start thinking about November, December. How am I going to set myself up properly for 2026? How am I going to end the year strong? How am I going to get rid of anything I'm paying for that I shouldn't be now? How am I going to strategically get through the holidays without it going into credit card debt? How am I going to finish strong in 2025 but also go in with momentum to 2026? So I wish you the absolute best. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and we will see you next time.